Hello, my name is Joan Ussher-Sharkey. A few years ago I wrote a book called St Anne's Story of a Guinness Estate, and it gives the whole history of the park. It goes back to 1835. Benjamin Lee Guinness was the grandson of Arthur Guinness, who founded the brewery, and he became very wealthy. He also became Lord Mayor of Dublin and an MP only in the latter years of his life. So Benjamin Lee established his home here, called it St Anne's, after the nearby Holywell. He was very influenced by Italian architecture and design. The house was here where we're standing. It would have looked straight out to over the sea. And when he died in 1868, his son, his eldest son, was Arthur Edward Guinness, and he took over as the owner of St Anne's. He decided to build a bigger house than his father, and he actually changed the orientation by having it now facing west. When he died, they had no children, so the estate was inherited by Bishop Plunkett, who was a nephew. He lived here for about 10 years, but the upkeep was very difficult for him. You know, he didn't have the money that the Guinness family had, and they had at least 17 labourers just doing the gardens alone at the time and paying it. But eventually he was in discussion with Dublin City Council, as we know it now, Dublin Corporation, and eventually it was acquired by compulsory purchase in 1939. We're standing here beside St Anne's well, and the estate here is called after this particular well. When Benjamin Lee Guinness acquired the lease of the house that was here, the original house was called Thornhill, and he set about building a new house but incorporated some of the Thornhill house. But he called it after this holy well here, which was called after St Anne. It was mentioned in the Ordnance Survey name books back when the Ordnance Survey was done in the 1830s, that it was a place of pilgrimage in times gone by. Behind me you can see the Pompeian Temple. When Benjamin Lee Guinness acquired this estate here, he decided to develop the gardens, and one of the things he did was he dammed the river Nanican, which runs through it, and to form this lake. I think if you look very, very closely at some of the old photographs, it looks as if there was a little fireplace inside, and they would sit here and look out over the bay, and you had a beautiful view out over the Bull Island out to the sea, and have their tea. We're standing here at Annie Lee Tower Bridge, which was actually the original entrance along here from the Coast Road to the Thornhill estate, which Benjamin Lee acquired and became St Anne's Estate. When Benjamin Lee married, he married his cousin, Elizabeth Guinness, and they had 4 children, and the first child was called Annie Lee. He erected this to honour his daughter. It marked the entrance into the estate, and it connects the upper level and the lower level because it is on a rising ground, and there are beautiful walks from the top all the way back to the back of the house, and on the lower level all the way to the lake. This entrance, I said, is the original entrance. There's another entrance up on Mount Prospect. A famous visitor came to Ireland, and it was Queen Victoria on her last visit to Ireland in 1900, and she would have entered the estate here because she came in this way through the arch up to the front of the house, and they say she stayed for tea, and then exited by the big long driveway which was erected to bring her back out to the Howth Road to travel back to Dublin. standing now in the park very close to the clock tower, which you can see in the distance. The clock tower was erected about 1854 by, around that time, by Benjamin Lee Guinness, and it originally was a vegetable garden. Behind the clock tower actually is the nursery, which the Parks Department grow all the plants that are used to decorate Dublin City and surroundings. Well, at the moment we're at a replica of the Roman Tower at St. Remy in France. When Benjamin Lee Guinness built his new house around the end of 1836 or the beginning of 1837, it was an irregular Italian type house, but the most unusual aspect was this tower that you see behind me was erected on the top, on the roof. We know this because there is a sketch of the house. It's dated 1837 and this tower was up on the top of it. Now St. Anne's house was on a natural height overlooking the sea, so you can imagine what the view was like from up here all over the Bay of Dublin, from Howth out to the Dublin and Wicklow Mountains. When Benjamin Lee died, his son Arthur Edward, who later became Lord Ardilaun, decided to expand the house and make it bigger, and one of the things he did was he dismantled this Roman tower and brick by brick, and then had it reassembled here on this height overlooking the lake below. As I said, it's based on what the original Roman tower looks like. So Benjamin Lee Guinness was obviously very influenced by Italian art and gardens and history, and this is reflected in how he laid out St. Anne's. Sadly, the house that was standing here burnt during the war, and it was left derelict for quite a number of years, and it ended up that it was demolished. The park is used widely, and one of the big attractions every year is the Rose Festival, which takes place usually the third weekend in July.